Dear students, welcome and thank you for tuning in. We are continuing our discussion about proteins and its interaction with biomaterials as part of the biomaterials class. This video will continue discussing some basic information about proteins, its structure and how it is formed, and the functionality of the proteins. In organisms, the multiple reaction of amino acids that we talked about earlier, and we said that we have 20 amino acids. Those are the 20 amino acids that we know of in humans, and they are 2 billion years old. So these amino acids, they interact with each other to create proteins. When amino acids, those 20 amino acids, they interact with each other, they create a chain like this one, the one that you see in the figure. And they have a specific sequence. So for example, insulin is a protein, and in order to have an insulin, we have a number of amino acids that attach to each other to create this chain. And the sequence of those amino acids is important. For insulin to be insulin and to do its function, we have to have that particular sequence of amino acids. So you will have probably amino acid XXX, then Y, and B, Z, whatever, the different types of amino acid that create the protein. So proteins are made of amino acids. Amino acids are chained together in a specific order to create this chain. This is the primary structure of protein, but it's not going to be a protein until it assumes a functional shape. And if you remember, we said we have those side chains to each protein, the ones in the red, if you can see them. And those side chains, some of them have positive charge, some of them has negative charge. Because of those charges, the chain of amino acids is going to fold on itself. And because we have a particular sequence of amino acids, the shape will be a specific shape. When the protein has its shape, its functional shape, then it's active. If there is a mistake happened and we have one of the amino acids that should not be in the insulin, let's say protein, is there, then the protein will not take its correct shape, and then it will be dysfunctional. It's not going to work. What you want to take from this is that proteins are a sequence of amino acids, a particular sequence of amino acids. The amino acids have side chains, will have charges. The chain of amino acids will fold on itself based on those charges in order to create a three-dimensional structure with a specific shape. So once that shape is assembled, now it's a functional protein. What happened inside the cells is that DNA got replicated when the cell divide. Then if we want to create a protein, the DNA need to be transcribed into RNA, and the RNA is then translated into protein to create the protein that we're looking for. And RNAs, we have the bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil in the RNA. So each 3 bases will select one of the amino acids. RNA is a chain of bases. Every 3 of these chains select one of the amino acids. There is a coding between them to create this chain. This process, going from DNA to RNA to protein, is called the central dogma of biology. And I hope that you remember this from your biology classes. So protein means first rank. It was mentioned the first time in a letter sent by Johannes Jacob Berzelius, a Swedish chemist. He sent a letter to Gerardus Johannes Mulder. Mulder is a Dutch chemist. So they were talking about some of their findings. Berzelius sent a letter to Mulder stating, that's in 1838, and said, I propose to you the name protein to use for the finding that you have organic oxide of fibrin. And he explains that it comes from the Greek word proteos, and which means the first rank, because it appears that the primitive or principal substance of animal nutrition. So it was focused on nutrition, but actually it was everything is made out of proteins inside the biological system and inside the human body. And since then, the organic chemistry field was born, and they were all organic compounds, and that's where we start talking about proteins, and they're studying them, what are the functionality, and what do they do inside the human body. Now let's talk about the origins of the proteins, or the origin of the protein function. How does protein function? So although generated by the process in which the amino acids gets attached to each other in order to create the chain, this is called condensation polymerization. And of the 20, so you have a different set of amino acids for each protein, different sequence of amino acids for each protein, and that's how they are created. Proteins carry out an incredible array of diverse tasks. They do a lot of things, and the collection or the number of proteins that an organism creates from its DNA is called the proteome. And in the human body, we have 32,000 proteins that are functional, that we know the function of them, that are created from our DNA. So it's a lot of proteins. Because of the highly specific cooperative conformational processes that occurs in proteins, the chain can fold into a unique shape. It's important. We have a sequence of amino acids, a specific sequence, we have side chains, they have charges, the protein will fold, and then we have a unique shape. And that unique shape is stabilized by intramolecular covalent interaction, which is the interaction between the side chains of each amino acid. So the special organization of protein, its shape in 3 dimensions, is characteristic of its function. So proteins cannot function unless they are in a specific shape. If we missed, let's say, one amino acid in our protein, we have one mistake in the amino acid sequence, then the protein will not fold in its shape and it loses its functionality. So it's very important to understand that proteins, in order to be functional, they have to have a particular shape. Otherwise, they're not going to be functional. What do proteins do inside our body? So they can support structure. And one of the examples is collagen. Collagen is is the basis of the connective tissue, the skin, the muscles, and the bone. So it supports structures. Also, it works as transporters. And one of the examples for those transporters is hemoglobin, that in the blood that transports oxygen and CO2, carbon dioxide. Also, it can work as storage. So there is a protein called myoglobin. That protein actually stores oxygen inside the muscles when we need them. So if you start exercising, there are some oxygen already stored in your muscle in order to have it, immediately. You don't have to wait for the blood circulation to get you the blood to your muscle. Otherwise, it will be inefficient. Also, the proteins work as hormones. And one of the examples of hormone that we talked about is insulin. Insulin is a hormone that allows glucose to get inside the cell, because glucose is a big molecule. So insulin helps a channel to transporter to get it inside the cell to utilize it in metabolism. Insulin is a protein. Also, protein are used in signal transduction. You asking, so a protein is secreted in one location in the body that circulates into the blood in order to stimulate another action somewhere else in the body. And that's insulin, actually. So insulin is secreted in the pancreas, and it goes everywhere to allow cells for glucose intake into cells. Also, proteins work as catalysts, enzymes that accelerate. So there are a lot of proteins that accelerate, the enzymes that accelerates reactions inside the body, and they are proteins. And they are good also they're used in movement. So DNA and RNA polymerases, those are proteins that allow the separation of DNA and the translation of DNA into RNA. So they allow movement inside the cells. So those are the polymerases. So I hope this will give you a good understanding about how important proteins are and what are the different functionality they work and they perform inside the body. Now, proteins, if we implanted a material inside the body, we are going to alter this balance inside the biological system, and proteins are everywhere. And so how would protein interact with our material or our implant? And this is going to be the discussion for the next videos we're going to discuss, in which we're going to continue our discussion about proteins. Thank you for watching. Until next video. Bye.